She called it a trust exercise and set the paper on our kitchen island like a permission slip. At the top, she'd typed in a cheerful font, allowed contacts list. Below that, numbered 1 through 8, were names of people I could text, call, or meet one-on-one. She signed the bottom like a manager approving time off. Her name wasn't on it. "Where are you?" I asked, tapping the blank line at the bottom. Meg smiled like a yoga instructor about to tell me to relax my jaw. "It's not about me," she said. "It's about helping you feel safe without controlling me." That was the hook, the promise and the trap in one sentence. If I signed, I was enlightened. If I questioned, I was a dinosaur with a clipboard. I design yards for a living. I've spent 20 years sketching where water should run and how much shade a sapling needs to not die the first summer. I believe in containers. They keep life from flooding where it shouldn't. She took that word and turned it into a cage. The list had my friend Dave, the neighbor who watches our dog, my sister, and even Joe, the colleague Meg always swore annoyed her. I ran my finger under the names like a blind man learning a new alphabet. "You didn't include yourself," I said. Meg shrugged, unbothered. Her HR voice arrived and took a chair. "I'm practicing radical transparency," she said. "You asked for boundaries. This is me meeting you." "I asked for honesty," I said. "And this is it," she said, tapping the list, the nails she painted the color of wet clay clicking faintly on the paper. "We're setting rules so nothing gets muddy. We can widen the net later." "You're not on the net," I said. She smiled. "I don't need permission to talk to my friends." "You want me to ask permission?" I said. "No," she said, careful. "I want you to be mindful." "Mindful," I said, tasting the word like it was a new herb I didn't trust yet, "but you don't want to write your name down." "I'm not the one with concerns," she said, and there it was, the slight flinch over the word issues, the one she used in sessions but not in kitchens. I could have fought then. I could have folded the paper in half and told her to stop walking our marriage like a workshop. Instead, I signed. I was tired, and tired men make deals with ideas that look like rest. We called it the container experiment. We put date nights in the calendar and rules on the fridge like a household with a teenager. We gave each day a job. Mondays were for questions. Wednesdays for an individual practice where we were encouraged to go somewhere that made us feel like our best selves. Saturdays were for each other, phones down. Sundays we slept in and pretended the week had not been a battlefield. At the bottom of the fridge, the calendar app on Meg's phone started to sprout repeating. Yoga sessions on Wednesdays at 6. The location was a studio 3 blocks from a bar we used to go to when we were dating. The little purple bars on her week made a fence. "You could come," she said once, tossing the invitation like a coin she didn't expect me to catch. "Isn't it your individual practice?" I asked. "It is," she said. "But if you wanted to try yoga again?" "I don't mind yoga. I mind lies that wear leggings." I nodded and said I'd think about it, like a man practicing how to keep breath in his chest. The first escalation came sooner than either of us scheduled. After 3 weeks of containers, I asked if I could grab coffee with a woman from a native plant meetup, a landscape architect who'd offered to show me a rain garden project in Wash Park. Her name was Elle, and she wore boots that looked like they'd seen weather. I added her to the allowed contacts list because that's what we did now. I texted Meg the plan because I had learned to narrate. She hearted the message and added a sun emoji, which in our language meant I'm pretending to be easy. We walked 2 loops around the park, talking about bioswales and the way Denver clay cracks in August. We sat on a bench and drank iced coffee. I left when the shadows hit the grass and the geese started gossiping. It was the most boring thing to ever get me in trouble. Meg was waiting in the parking lot when I got home, arms folded, jaw set, the front porch light painting her like a stage. The moment I opened my door, her voice hit me. "Who is she?" she snapped. "Elle," I said. "I told you." "I saw your location," she said. "I watched your little dot circle the park for an hour and a half." "How?" I said, though I knew. Couples share more than beds now, they share settings. "Find my," she said, like a teacher delighted to catch a student off guard. "Why didn't you answer when I texted?" "I was talking to her about work," I said, "and I'm not required to be on a leash." "You're required to be honest," she said. "You broke the container." "I got coffee and talked about plants," I said. "You were on a date?" she said. "You think I'm stupid?" I looked around like the parking lot could give me an answer that would shrink this moment. It was just our street, mountain air that smelled like pine and asphalt, a neighbor's sprinkler hissing somewhere, the sky bleeding out the last of the light. "I was on a walk in a public park with someone I put on the list," I said. You floated the yoga studio all month and never invited me again." She laughed, sharp. "Because it's not for you, because it's mine." "You're not on my list," I said. "That should tell you something." "It tells me you want control," she said. "It tells me you can't handle me having my own life." Her voice came up, and somewhere a dog barked back. The porch light hummed. She stepped closer, eyes bright. "You broke the rules," she said. "Just say it, you broke them." "What about your rules?" I asked. "What about the ones you write in your calendar with a purple heart?" Her face twitched. She shook her head once, tiny, talking herself out of it. "You can't handle a woman doing yoga without you," she said. "I can handle that fine," I said. "I can't handle a woman who keeps moving the goalposts and calls it growth." We didn't sleep in the same bed. I laid on the couch and watched the ceiling fan shuffle the air and thought about drought. You water the wrong root, the right one dies. The next Wednesday, I put my own entry in the calendar, consult at Highland Growers. It was a nursery that sold native grasses and could maybe use a designer to upsell yards. I went. On the way home, something in me that had been bending bent another inch. The yoga studio's windows glowed as if the room inside were a warm loaf of bread. The bar next door had people tugging winter hats off their heads, cheeks red, shoulders loosening as they put down their bags like they were putting down their weeks, I parked and sat there, engine ticking. The purple bar on Meg's week sat inside my brain. It is an ugly thing to imagine your wife laughing with someone else, and a worse thing to feel certain about it. I went inside the bar and asked for a beer I didn't want. The bartender had one of those faces that looks like it's heard things. He slid the beer over and nodded like we'd done this before. We hadn't. "You guys still doing trivia on Wednesdays?" I asked, because small talk is a ladder to questions. "First Wednesdays," he said. "Tonight's just regulars." "Busy on Wednesdays then?" I said. He smirked. "People who stand behind bars learn your tells fast." "You looking for someone?" he asked. "My wife," I said, and let him hear the sour in the word I didn't want to hear. "She's next door at yoga." "Ah," he said, and polished a glass the way bartenders do when they're buying a second to decide how much truth the room can hold. "Yeah, we get a lot of yogis after. A couple of them always sit right there." He pointed to a corner table, half hidden behind a plant. 2 empty glasses sat there, water rings overlapping like Venn diagrams. My stomach dropped in a way I know too well. "They come in every Wednesday?" I asked, though I didn't want the answer. A person in a court asking a question while trying to throw the answer back in time. He shrugged, kind. "Most weeks," he said. "Tall guy, baseball cap? She laughs a lot, good laugh." My ears rang. The laugh. Meg's laugh had become a more careful animal at home, a domesticated thing that only came out for well-timed jokes and old shows. The idea of it living wild somewhere else like a coyote made my throat go tight. "What time do they usually get here?" I asked. 6:30, he said. "They're here by 7. "Thanks," I said, and left 2 fives under the glass like I was tipping for news. Outside, the yoga studio door opened. A spill of bodies, leggings, water bottles, the smell of eucalyptus. Meg was among them, ponytail high, cheeks flushed the way they used to get after our first hikes. She turned not to look at the bar, not to look at me, but to glance at her phone. She smiled down at it like it was a secret that knew her name. I went home and sat in the truck with my forehead on the steering wheel until the sleepiest part of me woke up and said, "Get out." Inside, I turned on the kitchen light and watched it paint the place where we pretend we're fine. She came in 20 minutes later, fast breath, bright eyes, radiating an energy that used to spill on me and now dripped off somewhere else. "How was yoga?" I asked. "Amazing," she said. "I wish you'd come. It's not what you think." "What do I think?" I asked. "That it's an excuse," she said. "Container, Sam. We said Wednesdays are for ourselves." "Who's the tall guy with the cap?" I asked. Her face went flat. The room got thinner. "Don't," she said. "Don't do this." "Is it Joe?" I asked. "From your team?" She pursed her mouth like she'd eaten something hard. She took her time answering. "That's how a lie introduces itself. Slowly, so you'll get used to its weight." "Joe is a colleague," she said. "We talk." "Every Wednesday," I said. "The bartender says you two have a table." Her lips pulled, half smile, half wound. "You talked to the bartender?" "He was there," I said. "So were you." "We get a drink after class," she said. "It's Denver. People drink." "He says you laugh," I said. "I laugh," she said. "It's legal." "Were you laughing with him 6 months ago too?" I asked. Her eyes darted. A deer who knows there's a road somewhere nearby but can't see the headlights yet. What are you asking? She said. I talked to Joe at the company picnic last summer, I said. You two told a story only people who had been somewhere together could tell. She shifted, a small movement like rearranging weight. This is why we need containers, she said, because your mind goes on hikes I didn't consent to. I nodded slowly, like a person who can feel themselves shriveling under a sun they used to enjoy. Then I told her something I hadn't planned to tell. I ran into Joe at the nursery, I said. I asked him if he wanted to grab a beer sometime, man to man, because I had this feeling I didn't like and I wanted to be wrong. That's manipulative, she said. It's human, I said. He asked me what he should say. I told him the truth would be my preference. She closed her eyes. If you've ever watered a plant and watched the dirt take it too fast, you know the look. Something sinks, something erodes. What did he tell you? She asked. That you two were a thing before we launched the container experiment, I said, half a year before. Joe doesn't get to define this, she said, voice low, dangerous. Joe doesn't get to define me. You could, I said, right now. He's a friend, she said, like someone pushing a rock uphill and hoping gravity takes a day off. He's helped me see myself. He makes me feel seen. I nodded, slow, like a man watching a storm roll and counting the beats between lightning and thunder. What do I make you feel? I asked. She swallowed. Her eyes got shiny but didn't spill. Meg's tears are strategic and always late. Like a project, she said finally. Like a yard you're trying to fix. That's my job, I said softly. I fix ground that's washing away. Exactly, she said. You treat me like a slope. Because I can feel the mud under our feet, I said. The second big fight peak, if you're tracking, happened 2 days later in our therapist's office, a room with plants that never seem to droop and a couch that makes you confess. Meg came in hot, chin high, the kind of posture HR people practice in mirrors. Sam is trying to control me, she said before we sat. He wants a list of who I'm allowed to breathe near. I didn't look at the therapist. I looked at Meg's hands, the way her thumbs rubbed each other like flint. I signed your list, I said. You did, she said, as if I'd done a trick, and then you broke it. I took a walk with someone in daylight, I said. Patriarchy, she fired, like a flare. You think you own my time? Our therapist, a woman with gray hair who wears linen-like armor, held up a hand. Words like patriarchy can be helpful to point at patterns, she said, or they can be weapons. What pattern are you pointing to, Meg? Meg blinked. She hadn't expected to be asked to define her ammunition. He polices me, she said. He asks questions like, I'm on trial. Do you have an ongoing romantic relationship with Joe? Our therapist asked, gentle as a cat slipping into a sunbeam. Meg stared. You could hear the HVAC kick on. At last, she said the quiet part, almost quietly. It started before, she said. Before the containers, I said. She nodded. So the experiment was an absolution, I said. A museum plaque that says we're looking at the thing now so we don't have to talk about the history. She narrowed her eyes. You want to punish me, she said. I want you to stop calling half-truths growth, I said. I want you to admit you built your freedom on a lie and wanted me to tend the garden. She pressed her palms to her thighs, smoothing nothing. This is what men do, she said. They get to have their coffee chats in their little boots wearing plant girls, and then they crucify the woman for wanting more than being the wife who makes the lunches. I made lunches, I said. That's not the point, she said. It never is, I said, and then I shut up because my anger had grabbed the wheel, and the last time that happened, we didn't talk for a week. We didn't talk for 3 days. Silence is not neutral, it's pessimistic fertilizer. On the 4th day, I went to the bank. You could call it petty, but I call it irrigation. I had been watering the wrong bed for too long. I closed the joint credit card. I pulled half the savings. I moved the auto pay for the mortgage into an account with my name. I rented a short-term place with a view of a piece of the Front Range that looks like an old man's knuckles. The third escalation wasn't fireworks. It was me moving money like I was moving out of a flood zone. When I told her, she didn't breathe for a second, like someone pushed her underwater. You're leaving, she said, flat. I'm choosing me, I said. You're abandoning me, she said. I'm refusing to be an exception on your list, I said. She grabbed the allowed contacts paper from the fridge and slammed it on the counter as if it might still save us. This was supposed to help, she said. You were supposed to feel safer. I felt managed, I said. like a shrub in a too small pot. You and your dirt metaphors, she snapped. I tried to give you language, I said. You gave me a list I didn't write. She tore the paper in half. It made a sound I won't forget. Go, she said, voice shaking. If you want to be alone so badly, go. I don't want to be alone, I said. I want to be unlied to. I packed without melodrama, shirts, work boots, a box of drawings, the leather roll of hand tools I use to show clients how I think. On my way out, I looked back at the house and thought about all the water I'd run under it so the clay wouldn't crack in July. You can do everything right under a house and still watch the walls lean. It isn't always you. Sometimes the person inside keeps moving furniture onto one side. Moving out didn't fix the ache. It did, however, make the ache honest. Pain without lies is lighter. I woke up the first morning in my rented place and realized no one would accuse me of cheating because I had coffee with someone who knows what mulch is. It felt like lungs. I got busy. That's what men like me do when the ground breaks. I filed a separation. I asked a lawyer to write in adult language what I already knew, that honesty isn't a buffet. I turned down 3 big design jobs that would have kept me chained to someone else's sketchbook. I bought a domain name with my last name on it and the word landscapes and made a site with photos of yards I'd been proud of. I took a small loan from a client who believes in rain gardens and men who show up on time. I printed business cards that did not say in invisible ink, waiting for permission. I expected a collapse in me. I got a sprout instead. It is a strange thing to build something while something else dies. It makes you careful. It makes you moral in ways you don't know how to brag about. Meg texted, then called, then knocked, then texted again. The messages had stages: angry, sad, nostalgic, practical. What about the mixer? What about the dog? What about the couple friends we will lose? None of the messages were, I slept with Joe and I used theory to launder it. Joe texted once. It was one line: I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't respond because there is no version of me that can do the arithmetic where he didn't. I saw the bartender again, months later, after a job consult downtown. He remembered me. I suspect he remembers all of us. How's Wednesdays? I asked. He gave me a half smile and shrugged, the universal sign for people do what people do. New faces, he said. Same table. I laughed without meanness. Some corners in life don't ever get new light, just new shadows. This would be a good place for me to give you the speech about forgiveness. I don't have one. I don't hate her. I don't love her like I did. I'm somewhere in the honest middle, which is where most lives are planted and where most roots either rot or hold. Here is what I do know. I invested in soil. I thought if I enriched it and mulched it and kept the runoff from washing it away, everything would find a way to grow. It turns out our marriage was being watered with a hose I didn't see when I wasn't home. It turns out containers are only as good as the person who keeps the lid on. When the divorce papers came back signed, I didn't toast or cry. I went to a job site where a homeowner wanted to rip out a green lawn and put in buffalo grass and rocks and a kitchen garden. She asked if it would be ugly at first. I told her the truth. Everything you love looks wrong at first if it's going to last. My first big job came 3 months after I left. A hotel wanted to redo a courtyard to look like Colorado instead of California, which meant I could go wild with penstemons and rabbit brush and flagstone that holds heat in October like a secret. I hired 2 guys I'd met on other crews who didn't mind my playlists or my sermons about native seed. We dug and wiped sweat and argued about the best way to encourage water to do what you want without pretending you have more of it than you do. When the city inspector came by with his clipboard, he smiled at the swale and signed without questions. I sent my first invoice with my new business name on it and knocked a dumb hole in a wall in my rental to hang a shelf I didn't need. You do that when you start over. Put weight on a thing to see if it holds. Meg sent a photo of our old dog sleeping on the couch, his snout gray, his paws twitching like he was chasing something he'd never catch. I texted back a heart and asked if I could take him to the reservoir on Saturday. She said yes, and we did, and he got burrs in his tail and drank too fast and threw up on the gravel, and I laughed like a person who remembers his own laugh. When people ask what happened, I tell them we tried to fix something with a piece of paper we both pretended we believed in. I tell them a list isn't a promise, it's a map drawn after you already know the territory. If the name that matters isn't on it, the river will find a way around your dam. I'm not bragging, but I'm not hiding either. There's a sign on the back of my truck now with my business name and a wine that makes me proud. We build for the climate you have, not the one you wish. It's a landscaping motto. It's also how I live. 2 questions for you. If someone handed you a list of who you're allowed to be with and kept themselves off it, would you sign? And where's the line between containers that hold love safe and cages that hide a secret? If this resonated, drop your take in the comments and subscribe for more stories.